Once upon a time there was a farmer who wanted to show off his prosperous state to the President of the United States, Calvin Coolidge, and his wife. The couple visited the farm on sunny morning, and during the tour, the First Lady became curious, and as she passed the chicken coop, she asked the farmer how many times the rooster could mate in a single day. And the farmer, with a smile, proudly replied, "Several times a day, man. Several times a day." Intrigued, the First Lady then tells the farmer, "Well, why don't you tell this to the President immediately?" And there went the farmer, sharing this information with the President, a little further ahead on the tour, observing the fields. After hearing this, President Coolidge asked curiously, "With the same chicken or with several?" The farmer said, "Well, Mr. President, with several chickens." So the President said, "Tell the First Lady about it." The story tells about the Coolidge effect, which is a natural occurrence in man that says that practically all male mammals that copulate with a new female tend to last on average 1 minute and 30 seconds until ejaculation. And if they continue to engage with new partners, this number remains the same. While for females, the same time to reach sexual peak would end up being 20 minutes. However, if the male and the female continue to mate, that is, if they do not change partners, the average time for the male can reach up to 7 minutes before reaching the climax, while the females reduces it to 14 or 15 minutes. In other words, they find balance. And now, the male who continued with his partner only needs to give 2 blows, and his female is satisfied, just like him. But this seems also to me to reflect one of the big problems that men tend to have, and not just sexually, but in life as a whole. Sigmund Freud talked about how men tend to have what he called a castration complex, which would be in a way a fear of losing your penis. But the penis would not be just a penis. It would also be a representation of the man's will, of his intentionality about the world. And consequently, this castration complex will make men from childhood afraid of engaging in the world for various reasons. Not afraid of dying, but afraid of losing their will, their capacity, or their own power. If you look at the most scientific research, contrary to what radical feminists say, the ability to be ambitious, to have that drive, and to have the intention to achieve goals, and to put yourself out there in the world tends to be something that is very attractive to women. And if women value male ambition, analytical and existential psychology shows us that appearances are not always what they seem. What I mean by this is that more than having ambitions in themselves, more than the way these male desires are expressed physically, but be it by having cars, having a house, having a nice shape, the question is, what do these ambitions or this male will mean? What does having ambition or expressing your will in the world really mean? And if you imagine that ambition in the Oxford Dictionary means a pretension, a strong desire or a longing for achieve a certain goal, it becomes clear that we can only aspire to certain things that, most of the time, do not exist here at the moment. In other words, it will be a vision of that which can come to be. Despite the present moment, things that will have a future. So it is not only about the now, and it is not only about what has already been. It is adding to the equation of your actions and ways of seeing and perceiving the world this concept of future, of continuing things relative to this present that is happening now. Otherwise, if you only imagine that one day you will do things but do not act on anything in the present moment, you will be what Nietzsche called, thus spoke Zarathustra, an outer-worlder, a person who lives beyond this earthly world, imagining a perfect life, but never doing anything to make that life come to fruition. Sometimes living more in the ideas, in this Platonic world, and with these losing his earthly life. Something that Nietzsche himself did throughout his life, and perhaps he wrote to us as a form of warning. This is not about remaining stagnant and only imagining an ideal future. It is about moving in a way that always makes these dreams come true. This is the aspect of what the Greeks and even the Stoics called the essence. The essence is that which remains, which continues. It is the human soul, which no matter when or where it is expressed, it always continues to be. What does this mean? Well, if you want something in your life, perhaps not achieving it can bring you these negative emotions. But from the moment you persist in this idea, these plans and these objectives, you will automatically polish these desires in a way that they can actually take you where you want to go. That is, your essence remains despite the existence you end up having. This is what leads the Stoics, the Buddhists, and even the samurai to talk about the determination of the mind. Because if you keep them in your mind, you will have them as if it was a huge marble stone. But just like David, the famous sculptor, Michelangelo needed to sculpt it to give it the final form. That is, some parts need to go away so that the true form can be revealed. Michelangelo even said that he didn't carve David, that in fact he just took David out of the stone. And maybe the same thing is happening to you right now. All of the hours of work, all of the hours of study, all of the efforts you have put in can make you feel like you are achieving nothing, leaving you frustrated, irritated, and even discouraged. But perhaps it is precisely by enduring in spite of these things that you end up carving out your true form, or carving out your dreams into reality. That makes you go from this point A to a point B and leave what you desire in this reality, and not just in your head. But the only way to achieve this is by not giving up. Don't let your castration complex get the best of you. Keep going. You will achieve what you want. Don't give up. Persist. And goodbye.